Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for the intro into the blockchain use cases, Eric. Apologies for not being available in person today. I hope this works for everyone. You can hear me well, and you have a face to the voice that you will be hearing from my phone in the course of the discussion. I have prepared a little presentation as to how IP and blockchain fit together, and I will go into screen share so that you can see it. I'm happy to share the slides after this presentation. So maybe a couple of words on me. I'm Jonas Block. I'm the head of product management at IPwe. I'm a lawyer by training and now in charge of building the products that are demanded by the IP market. I have two missions today. I will give some background as to why blockchain is relevant in the IP space in the first place, specifically for patents, and then how we are using blockchain technology at IPwe to make the life of everyone easier. To start off with, a couple of words about the company. About IPwe is we are an innovation platform that's enabled by blockchain technology. What does that mean? Is our platform is built on blockchain technology developed by IBM. Ruben was referring to this in the initial intro, and our mission is to make innovating easy, to communicate the value of innovation, and to put IP to use in an easy and appealing way. And one of the technologically enabled use cases that I would touch upon is our smart pools product. But first of all, let's go into the core question of this panel: is blockchain for patents? Why? Why would you want to switch over this technology? So first of all, as the name says, a distributed ledger can be used to store relevant data points about a specific asset. And if verification is performed upon those data points, the trustworthiness is increased, and the cost for reviewing that data, for example, during due diligence processes, speaking about M&A, licenses, transfer of title, is reduced. Secondly, and now it gets even more buzzwordy, is you can execute smart contracts that are built on top of the ledger. To basically, the idea behind smart contracts is to convert repetitive human patterns into a no-touch experience for the customers. So when it comes to contracting and contract administration, that means human intervention is reduced, which ultimately leads to the fact that transaction costs are reduced, which is specifically interesting for stakeholders with limited budget, for example, individuals and SMEs. Now the core question is, why do you need to go decentralized with all of this? Because can't you just use a standard traditional database? It's nothing new to, or it's nothing specific to blockchain technology that you're enabling smart contracts. That can also be done on centralized databases, but the core difference is trust. So blockchain is auditable and consensus-based, and for that reason, the trustworthiness is just increased, because in the IP space in general, we are in an environment of untrusting parties. We speak about exclusivity, we speak about defending market shares, we speak about patent infringement, patent litigation. So that might be different in the university tech transfer context, but it's still a situation where you take a license not because you feel like you want to spend some money. You take a license because you are interested in complying with IP and getting access to the IP, to actually what we refer to as freedom to operate in the legal space, to be free to build out the solutions on your market without being potentially targeted by patent owners with infringement lawsuits. That, having said that up front, is let's go into the how. I'm trying to keep it short. This is not supposed to be an IPwe pitch. This is more supposed to be an how can you use technology, the new technology in a way that adds value to the stakeholders in the space. So I happen to be in this company, so this is why the examples are obviously going to be from IPwe. But speaking about value is, I wanted to introduce you to the concept of the history of value. And the core idea behind the history of value is that IP data, as it is available right now, is very siloed. So we have a lot of different stakeholders that have different ways to contribute to the IP life cycle, which means that their data footprints are stored in their respective databases. And I mean, there's a lot of movement also engaged by IPwe is engaging to make IP data more available, and we have very good access to bibliographic data, for example. But there's just so much more. For example, you have licensing data, you have litigation data, you have R&D data, you have financial data that's attached to it, and all of this is often hidden in confidential databases by the patent owner, made available in the course of a transaction. For example, if you want to sell a patent, or if you want to get licenses to a patent, but it's not stored in one place where it's easily accessible. So all of this is information that's relevant for the value of the asset and its core metrics, but it's very scattered. And it's contextual information. We often recommend to read the very interesting paper by Professor Contreras on shepherdizing patents, which is exactly targeting this problem. But it's not just information about the asset itself that is scattered, the core IP in data, because you can potentially make so much more available to your licensees. For example, documentation that we refer to as an enablement information. So not to be confused with the limited enablement legal term, but more, it's implementation information. It's documentation that helps you utilize the technology or the technical teaching of a patent that you have licensed, for example. That can be lab notes, prototypes, source code, and any additional implementation ideas that you might have. And that alone might not be patentable because it's obvious or trivial to the skilled person, but it's extremely valuable, maybe even existential, as a shortcut for a small company to revenue, if they can just piggyback on the train of thoughts that a leading individual in the space had, and not to reinvent the wheel all the time. So all of this can be stored in one place on chain in a confidential way. This is something I need to highlight because it's often confused. There are public blockchains and there are permissioned blockchains. In a permission system, it's possible to select which data point is made available on the public chain and which is not available in the public part of the chain and which is not. So we are built on Casper, which is a permission blockchain. So the patent owner has full control over who sees what. The second interesting example, so this is more the data aggregation example that I was showing you right now. And the second interesting example is actually a piece of technology that we have developed based on the feedback from the advisory panel for tech transfer. Ashley is going to touch on that in the course of this presentation or this panel. It basically works like IPwe, which was unfortunately canceled this January, which means you have documentation, you upload it, it's hashed, it's timestamped, and it's written to the blockchain. And so it can be made accessible to you if you upload the document, but you also have the possibility to just upload a hash so that you have generated on a local machine. For example, if you have a lab PC that cannot connect to the internet, you can hash it there and only share the hashes with us. The core difference over IPwe is that you can actually put the captured asset to use. So we call this a trade secret because we don't know what you have captured. But as it's written to the blockchain and as it's interoperable and compatible with the system, you can tap into any of the use cases that we make available on the platform. Which leads us into the next interesting area, which is one of these new use cases that I was referring to, being smart pools. Smart pools are patent pools, but there's no restriction as to who is allowed to contribute, which is because they're technologically enabled. And from a cost perspective, it doesn't make any difference whether the license or pledge is 1 patent or 100, because it's blockchain enabled, which means the smart contracts are handling the revenue allocation process based on quality of the pledged assets. So we are not counting numbers, we are measuring quality on a summary basis, not like a human would do it. But that way, it's possible that you get a constant stream of revenues from making your technology available in such a pool. The smart pools are not exclusive for that reason. So if you have a small contributor, for example, you are able to generate additional revenue streams while you can still pursue your other options. The part that we call freedom to innovate is that the license can make enablement information available to the pool licensees through the history of value, again with the aim of fueling innovation in emerging technology areas. And I mean, who would be a better fit to contribute technology to these pools than universities? Because you're tech driven, you research for the sake of advancing science. You have detailed records for technology that you're not necessarily productizing yourself. So you're very appealing to licensees in the sense that you get more than just what I like to refer to as a naked patent license, because you get a full package of ideas and relevant for the adoption of the technology. So I think this is a very great example as to how emerging technologies can benefit from university tech transfer very early on. We've launched 3 smart pools already that you can see down there. It's Digital Link, Blockchain, and Metaverse, which is hot and new. And there's a lot of noise in the industry, a lot of movement. So people are gaining traction really fast. My personal favorite up next is Silicon Photonics, which is something that we have heard back from the market, that there's actually a need for a smart pool to be set up in this direction. I'm curious about your wishes, so send me an email or use our smart pool incubator. And I'm trying to be conscious of time. Here's the bullet points as to why we think blockchain technology is critical for university tech transfer. And you'll also find the link to our smart pool incubator down below here. So again, core value propositions. And now let me hand over to Ashley to continue this. I'm looking forward to the Q&A on the phone, unfortunately, but okay. And thank you so much.